down. I'm the one you call when you need a 10 up or down. I'm a tin rattle man, I'm working all day, getting those stakes in the ground no matter what they say. From sunrise to the night, I make sure everything's right. Yeah, I'm a tin rattle man, I'm working all day.
All right, we're back again with another episode of Under the Vinyl, a rental management media podcast. Usually this is the part where I would introduce my co-host Kyle, but Kyle is actually sick today. So we're going to go ahead and push on right through without him, unfortunately, and we'll get him back next week. But we do have a great guest today. Today on Under the Vinyl, we're sitting down with someone who's been a steady force and trusted voice in the tent industry for years. Biff from Anchor Industries joins us to bring a wealth of knowledge from the manufacturing side of the industry, where quality, innovation, and craftsmanship truly begin. We dive into everything from how Anchor continues to get the standard in fabric structures to challenges and opportunities shaping the future of tenting. Biff shares his perspective on customers and what they should be asking, what installers need to know, and why strong relationships between manufacturers and rental companies matter now more than ever. Biff, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Nate. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. I know it's you got a busy schedule, so I'm glad that we can at least get you on here, especially now with Anchor being our presenting sponsor. So glad to have you be the first one on here.
That's good, man. I like that.
Love it.
I like that. Yeah.
So, Biff, if you could give us a little rundown on what you're doing at Anchor, or where you kind of started at Anchor and when you started at Anchor up to now, and kind of what your job title is and what your role is.
All right. So I started at Anchor in July of 1987. So I am in my 39th year in the industry. My wife got her first job out of graduate school out of Northwestern at the CBS affiliate here in Evansville, Indiana. And that's how we ended up here. And she was a reporter, so she was working nights, and I was a stockbroker in Chicago, and we moved down here. And women were pretty new to broadcast news back then, so basically it was you were in a place like Evansville for 2 years, then you'd move on to a Louisville or a Topeka or Milwaukee market, then that would last 2 years, and so on and so on. So anyway, I got down here and really sort of decided that I didn't want to beat my head against the wall for 2 years building a book and then leave it. So I said screw it, and I went to work at a local restaurant so that we had similar hours. And through that process, I met the Doss family, who owns Anchor Industries, and took good care of them at the Cork and Cleaver restaurant here in Evansville. And
I was going to ask you that. That was that great steakhouse that you took me to.
There you go. And then Sally came home one day and said, I can't do TV news anymore. It's infotainment. It's not about news. It's about ratings. And so she said, I've taken a job at the newspaper. And I said, oh, I guess we're going to be here for a while. And I said, I better find a job. So at that point in time, Pete's brother-in-law, Eric Solter, was the president of Anchor. And I called him up and I said, hey, I'm going to get back into brokerage, because I knew everybody in town that had money at that point. And I said, I'm going to get back into brokerage. Can I use you as a reference on my resume? And he said, absolutely. Come out here and see me. So I had no idea what Anchor was all about. I had no idea what they did. I knew that I drove by it on the highway, but I really didn't know anything about it other than that. And I remember opening that door and smelling the vinyl for the first time. It's like, oh my God, what is that smell? And of course, now I don't even recognize it, because I'm sure
that smell sucked me in 21 years ago. I feel like whenever you open new vinyl bags, it was something.
Yeah, there's nothing like the smell of new vinyl. It's way better than moldy vinyl, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, 5 interviews later, I'm selling tents for a living. And we were in Evansville for another, I think, almost 2 years. Sally's mom was diagnosed with cancer. She wanted to move back home to Chicago, and I turned in my resignation and didn't know what I was going to be doing. And they said, we hate to lose you. Let's create a territory for you. So in February of '89, I started up. My territory was the northern Midwest, which was Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and northern Illinois, and I operated that territory for 18 years. And then Anchor hired a sales manager who was not my cup of Darjeeling, and I said, this is not going to work for me. And I called Chuck Miller out at Aztec. And I said, hey, I'm looking to make a change. Do you have any interest in talking to me? And he said, how soon can you get out here? So I went out and talked with Chuck for a while, and at that point in time, Aztec had sold their rental division to Classic, and they were working on ramping up their manufacturing. They had bought the assets from Academy, who had gone belly up, and I think Chuck paid $700,000 for all the assets of Academy Manufacturing, which was about a $16 million revenue stream at that point in time, and along with that came a bunch of people knocking on his door looking for work. So it was a good time. It was right place, right time to make that change. I came in as the guy who was going to create the sales network, the outside sales rep network for Aztec, and create a new model for them. And I've done it for 18 years with Anchor. I was pretty well versed in what it was going to take to make that all happen. So I did that at Aztec for probably a year and a half or 2 years, and then Alex was promoted to vice president, and then they promoted me to national sales manager. And I did that for another 3.5 years. And somewhere in that process, I ran into Pete Mogavero at a trade show, and he said, "Hey, I want to get the band back together." And I said, "Well, I'm all ears. What are you thinking about?" He said, "Well, I don't know. Let me think about that." So he and I talked back and forth for probably a year and a half, 2 years, and let's see, I left Aztec in June of 12, and then in October of 12, I started as national sales manager for Anchor. So back then there were 6 divisions at Anchor. You had Clearspan, you had international, you had outdoor amusement, you had custom products, you had fire shelters, and anyway, you had a bunch of different divisions of the company that I was responsible for. So it wasn't just tents; it was a kind of a new learning curve for me, which was good. Yep. So I think I managed about a team of about 35 salespeople, which was nice. Yeah. So did that for almost 8 years, and then during COVID, Pete decided it was time for a change, and he said we want to bring somebody new in to run sales. I said that's good. I've had enough time in this chair, and I got actually at that point in time I worked Colorado, Texas, and Arizona for about a year and a half, and then I got into product development, product management. So that's when the F3 High Peak was came to existence, and a couple of other things. So and during my process and time as national sales manager, we definitely did some other things to improve products and introduce new products. F3 was new, and some other things. So so I did product management for about a year and a half, and then our rep in the Southeast Territory left, Saul Peckness. Many of you know Saul. He's a great guy, good tent man. He left, and we were having problems filling that void. And I went to Kristen Mogavero and I said, if you can't find me anybody decent or the right person to take this territory, then I said, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I said, it'd be a good way for me to ride off into the sunset. So, so about a year and a half ago, actually, it was just about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started traveling the Southeastern Territory, which is Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. So that's my current territory with Anchor. That's my job. My title is sales consultant, because we believe that the relationship is very consultative with our customer base. We become very good friends with our customers and take good care of them. And it's not all about making the sale. It's about putting the right product with the right customer in the right place and time. So we don't like selling guys that have 20 by 20 frame tents, 80 wide pole tents. That just doesn't make good sense. Other people out there will do that, but that's not the Anchor way.
Well, I know when you moved over to the manager role again, it was one of those things where we were all a little worried because we loved you over the sales and things like that. So we were a little worried about everything, but now we got you back in our territory over here, so we get to work with you a little bit more. So we're thankful for that overall.
Yep.
So I think
I'm very thankful for it. I like being back on the road. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're in a good spot, and the way you just handle people and everybody loves you, I think that it's a good match overall, and it's been a good match for Anchor.
Right. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that.
Well, before we jump into kind of our products here and what we want to go through on what's new at Anchor and your different products, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors.
This episode of Under the Vinyl is brought to you by Anchor Industries, a fifth-generation, family-owned American manufacturer of tents and clear-span structures. Anchor has spent decades engineering products that last season after season, and they're more than just your supplier. They're a partner committed to helping grow your business. And right now, Anchor's winter discount is live. Get 15% off frame, fabric, and accessories for your tents and clear spans now through January 26th. Make sure you let them know Kyle and Nate sent you. Contact your sales rep today. Call 800-544-4445 or visit anchorinc.com to learn more.
And we're back with Biff here. And Biff, we're going to jump into kind of what's new at Anchor and kind of what's some products that we are looking at that we've kind of seen that are developing, as well as kind of the trends and things like that. So just kick things off. What's new at Anchor right now? What's a major product or update or innovation people should be paying attention to?
Sure. Well, I think the most recent product we've launched is the VXN, or the Vixen, as we like to call it. And that's basically a 3 meter through 15 meter clear span system that can go to a 4 meter upright and a 5 meter bay. So heretofore, in that profile with most of our competitors, that's a 3 meter upright and a 3 meter bay. We can go to 4 meter upright on a 5 meter bay up through 12 meter. The 15 meter needs to have 3 meter bays. So I'm sure that anybody who wants to do anything else with that can do what they want. You know, you guys are all pretty creative with the way you do things versus the way they get shipped to you from us.
Yeah, a lot of different changes there. But what kind of drove the development of that profile? Because it's a very interesting style of profile, especially.
Yeah. Actually, Mike Cruz was the guy who really spearheaded that, and we were all quick to jump on board because everybody else was a 3 meter leg and a 3 meter bay, and we said, all right, we can take this profile to a 4 meter leg and a 5 meter bay, and cut down the installation time by about 40%. And you got so many fewer parts and pieces, and it just makes sense. And you're still using a 2-hole base plate. You haven't gone to a 4-hole base plate, and it's been a really great product for us. And obviously you all have bought some, and we've got lots of other people into it, and looking forward to that product to continue to grow and prosper.
Yeah, I think that the big thing for me, and we were talking about buying it, and Mike and the group, it was the 4 meter leg being on that profile just in general. I think it's a quick, I don't want to say fast because nothing should be super fast, but
right.
It's a quick product that is, it's not as, it gives you more of this. You got the structure feel now. You know, you guys got the smaller frame tents and that style and everything, but now you're going to that structure feel that everybody wants, where you keep it up a little bit longer on a 4 meter leg. And I feel like the 4 meter leg is kind of the way events are going in some sorts with different, you get your stuff for the NFL or MLB or anything like that. They need taller legs. Maybe not a wedding leg, but some wedding planners do like the taller leg. So I think the 4 meter has been a great option, but just in general of how light the product really is.
Right. I mean, it's a 130 by 70 profile. It's a good size profile. It's beefy enough to get done what needs to be done, but not so beefy that it adds a lot of extra weight and time and effort. So it's been a great product for us. We've also developed a new glass and hardwall system for that works on the outside of the leg, as opposed to the rotor profiles we manufacture here in the U.S., where the walls, the hard walls and glass fit in between the uprights. And I'm sure at some point we will retrofit those systems for those profiles to be on the outside of the leg. It's just more forgiving, quicker, and easier.
Yeah,
right.
So that was what I was going to ask you. Did they officially roll out the hard wall for the Vixen line, and when are those options available, or are they available?
I believe, I believe they're available now. I think we're in the final stages of getting everything done with engineering, getting all the drawings finished, but I believe that we've sold some glass already and some hardwall as well. And we're also getting into the garage door style hardwall, which is a great product. It's much lighter and much easier to get put in place.
And so for the glass and the hardwall, do you see a specific market that those will start to lean towards, or do you think that it's going to be kind of versatile across the United States?
Well, I think as a lot of your previous guests have mentioned, this used to be a seasonal business, and now it's turning into a year-round business. So I think that the application for glass and hardwall is increasing with the seasonal the winter seasons and people doing more winter tenting and cold weather tenting, and certainly, obviously, in the opposite side and down in my new territory, warm weather tenting, where you want to keep the elements out in the summertime and keep the humidity and the heat out. So I think it's going to be good. I think the hard wall and glass are going to be great for all of that.
Yeah, and I think that glass is becoming I've had quite a few industry planners and things like that want to move to the glass style. So I think getting ahead on that with the Vixen is going to be great. I think that clear sidewalls has their place in the industry, but I think that a lot of these planners too are starting to get to the point, with these higher end events or these higher end structures, that they want to see solid glass wall rather than the vinyl wall. I get a lot of questions about that when I go to a site. Is it going to be glass or is it going to be vinyl? Well, it's going to be vinyl unless you want to pay for the glass. But I think, a lot of them want to go towards that glass, and that look is going to be great, especially on that 4-meter leg.
Right. Yeah, it'll be very nice and it'll be very, very clean, and the integrated doors and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, we're very pleased with that. And I think that what's next for the Vixen is going to be whether we decide to go with the Bodega, which is like our Arkham style top.
Yep.
Whether we want to get into shaped ends or the usual suspects, right?
Yep. And that was kind of the next question. A lot of people that we were talking to when we told them that you were coming on, they were kind of asking in regards to the Vixen if we were going to see the Bodega fronts, the hex ends, or just any kind of architectural add-ons, because I think that what's setting this industry apart right now, you have the garden tents and the Levos and things like that, but just a new style. So bringing this Vixen in, I feel like any kind of new architecture for that would be huge for the industry.
Yeah, I think it'll be good as well. And I think, we are now entering at the dawn of a new era of tenting, because structures are on the rise and pole tents are on the decline, other than obviously the self-bought products. The frame tents and structures are going to be king of the hill, and that means that they're going to be upgrades, and people are going to be more willing to spend money for better products that have integrated floors and climate controlled systems that aren't flapping in the wind and making a lot of noise and letting a lot of weather in, which has been a chronic problem with our products, for not our products, industry products, for years.
Right. And with that, talking about the flapping and the solid, more solid items, what about warehouse building? Is Anchor expanding more into the semi-permanent or warehousing building market? What types of structures are you guys are you using for storage and industrial applications now?
Right. So we entered the warehouse market about 2 years ago, maybe a little more than that. We were working with L2 exclusively for a while, and then when L2 sold to United, that agreement ended. And we're actually, I think, just right now, we're now starting to push the 334 profile, which I think is 334 by 120, I believe. And that's going to be, 30, 40, 50 meter profile for regular structure. And then for the warehouse buildings, that's just a whole different ball game. And that's a big, fast growing segment of the business. I'm sorry?
No load on that profile?
Yeah. We have snow loads on all our clear span structures. So basically, anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds and 20 pounds. And once you start bringing the uprights in, we can get a lot more snow load on anything. But all our buildings, all our standard clear span buildings and our Navitrack are snow loaded. It can be snow loaded. Yeah.
And how does Anchor approach the engineering when it becomes a multi-year building instead of like a 3-day event?
We have a very large engineering department at Anchor. We're unique that way. And we have about 12 or 13 people within our engineering department. We have a PE. We've got somebody else who's working on his PE. And we're working on really diligently on staying on top of all the code changes and keeping all our products certified to the most current codes. So I think that with the warehouse building, as I said earlier, that the 180-day code cycle for temporary structures is going to be changed to 365 days, I believe, in 2027 or 26. And that's going to play into our ability to take care of things being certified and having that engineering certification to make sure that these buildings can stay up permanently or semi-permanently without any issues. And that, just like anything else in any market, it all depends on the authority having jurisdiction and how they want to relate to you as somebody who's operating in their market. I mean, we all know that from one fire marshal on one side of town to another fire marshal on the other side of town, it's all about interpretation, and they all interpret it differently. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, and it's very arbitrary, unfortunately, but it is what it is, right?
Right. And, with that, I mean, that's why we're hoping to hopefully bring everybody together and, with ATA and ARA and what they're showing with these classes. And hopefully we can bring some of these fire marshals together and say, look, let's get y'all on the same page, because I feel like it's so all over the place. But with the manufacturers giving us the right stuff with the engineering and the right specs, and to be able to take it and say, hey, look, this is what we got. Let's go through it together. I think that's huge. And so having any support from y'all is wonderful.
Well, we work diligently to try and make that happen. We've always been committed to having an engineering team. Mr. Doss, the owner of Anchor, before Pete got involved, was an engineer, Purdue graduate, and just was very passionate about overbuilding things. Anchor's always been guilty of overbuilding things.
Right. You got to. I mean, people like it done quick and fast, like I said earlier, but with the safety aspect of it too. So, just with the Vixen in general, that's kind of where it was going with that. Can you break down some of the products that Anchor currently has that are kind of certified in the engineering?
Actually, I think the only product we have that isn't certified is our all-purpose canopy. I mean, we have engineering certification on the Fiesta, although it's not much. But I think everything else from the Navi Light to the F3 to the Navitrack to the Century line of tents to the Aurora to all our clear span, it all has engineering certification. So I don't think there's anything. Well, our old traditional pole tents don't have any certification. So Party Mate and the Party Tent, and then frankly they're going to be phased out within the next 2 to 3 years. So anybody who owns Anchor pole tents that wants to buy traditional striped tents, do it in the next 2 years, because they're going to go away.
Right.
Boy,
you heard it here first. Kyle's going to love that one.
Well, they need to go.
Honest colored pole tents and everything pole tent related.
Well, I mean, there are certain markets that thrive on straight ridge party tents or pole tents that have striping, but it's just not the product. You said it earlier. Public safety are the two words that we all need to think about and have running around our head all day long when we're out putting up tents or selling tents or proposing tents to end users or new customers. We just have to keep public safety at the forefront of our process.
Yeah, and so do you think in general, not just colored, but you think that there's going to be a noticeable shift in the pole tent industry?
Well, we're already seeing it at Anchor. I don't know what everybody else is saying. But frame tents are definitely. I mean, it was not just COVID that started that. It was pole tents were already on a slight decline, and I think that there's so much frame out there. There's such a glut of framework out there after COVID that I think a lot of people are steering away from pole tents, and they've realized that frame tents, plus with the labor pool being what it is, and you don't have the guys you used to have. You can't screw up putting up a frame tent together, but you can sure as hell screw up putting up a pole tent.
Well, it's so funny that you say that, because I was noticing that too. We have up in our Nashville warehouse. Obviously, we have a ton of pole tents still as Chattanooga Tent as a whole. But in our Nashville warehouse, I think we've had a 30 wide Century Mate up there since the office has kind of been open. It might have gone out one time, and we try to push it a little. We try to push it, but it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like everybody now wants that wide open look inside the structure, or they want that next thing. Like, what are you going to put a translucent top in? And so, having the poles down the middle, everybody's trying to maximize the space, but with that, just the safety and the standard. And so, I would push structure a little bit more, or a frame tent a little bit more, just because I feel more comfortable with knowing I can sleep at night, just with the engineering. Right. And that's how I sell it. But to your point on the labor, I would totally agree. I mean, back in the day when I first got into it 21 years ago, I remember the first pole tent I put up was an Anchor 30 wide yellow and white stripe, and it had all ropes. And so we were tying it off, and we were trying to see who could tie the knot the fastest, and have challenges. Who could go around and put up the tent the fastest and tie all your knots the fastest. And nowadays, and we did it right back then, I would say, but now I think with all these different companies having to have labor come in, have extra labor brought in. These event labor companies, they do know pole tents, but I don't think that I would feel as safe or feel good about walking away from having somebody like that put up a pole tent versus a structure. The structure's, I don't want to say idiot proof, but it's pretty much, or a frame tent is more idiot proof than a pole tent at this point. And you would
But
think,
they really only go together one way, right?
yeah, but you'd think it'd be different because it has more nuts and bolts. But at the end of the day, it's a safer product. So,
Without question. And nobody has to be a Boy Scout. Nobody has to know how to tie a clove hitch or any of those things anymore. So the web and ratchet were a huge advent to change in our industry. So hats off to Mike Hillenbrand at Anchor, who was the first guy that brought the web and ratchet and the stake bar into play back many years ago.
yeah, thankful for that. But I'm also like, although my back hurts from the sledgehammers and the ropes and everything else, and I'm going to PT because of it, I'm also kind of sad. I mean, I'm only 35 years old, but it's kind of sad that this up and coming new generation has no idea what it's like to have to tie a knot. I feel like we need to go backwards a little bit into some of these boot camps and things that we do, and just to see if people can still tie the knot or not.
Right. Well, it's funny, when the sailcloth came onto the scene, we likened it to Henry Ford hitching up a mule to the front of the Model T, because we were going back. We got rid of the translucent fabric and we made all these changes, and now all of a sudden we're going back to translucent fabric and round ends and all those things that those tents were all about originally. So it was interesting that the guy at Sperry really spearheaded all that, and then the industry followed.
Well, and I think that's another point. There is a good point is maybe not all pole tents are dying. The sailcloth, and Brian Richardson said it on our last tailgate talk here that came out today, that he felt like that when that first rolled out, that all the sailcloth stuff came out and the Aurora stuff came out, that was going to die off. It was just going to be a fad. It was going to be a trend, but it's here to stay, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think you still got that mix between the classy look with the wooden poles and things like that, and you can put up with the poles down the center and the less room when you have such a sexy look of the rounded ends and the wood poles.
Well, it's a highly emotive tent. It's full of nostalgia, and that's what appeals to the brides. I mean, we jokingly call it an estrogen-based product. The brides and the brides' mothers absolutely love it, and I 100% agree. I think it was Dave Hudak up at Canopies in Milwaukee who said to me, we're always going to have century tents for our corporate work and our other things, but we're going to have sailcloth for weddings, and that's always the way it's going to be. And that is the new wedding tent. It is not the century or the high peak tension tent anymore. It is the sailcloth product. So.
And do you see an upward trajectory right now? Is that product just still sailing out the door?
It's moving pretty well, and our sales are really substantial in that line. And we introduced the 81 wide last year, and it's been great.
A monster, by the way.
I hope it stops there. I really don't see a need to go to 100 wide in a sailcloth tent, but I'm sure somebody's going to do it because somebody's going to ask for it and somebody's willing to pay. Somebody's willing to pay for it, so it will happen at some point. But I think part of the charm and the nostalgia of the sailcloth is the intimacy of it. So when you keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you lose that aspect of things.
Right, and let's not get it misconstrued here on our end. When you get to that size, it's already tough enough to clean those tops and keep them dry and do all the things to maintain them. But golly,
right.
Yeah. But you'll have somebody that'll pay for it that's got to have it, and
it.
You're down.
And whether it's us or Freds or Aztec who does it, it'll be a matter of time.
Right. And so that's kind of like, so it's moving more to a hybrid now, going to your track frames, not just your structures. Why are hybrid track frames becoming so popular? Is it a labor, transportation, engineering, or all the above?
All the above, and I think it's forgiving. Whereas a clear span is so much more specific in its installation, and you have to watch elevations. With a hybrid track frame, you've got an adjustable leg, so you can cheat all that stuff. Where you can't do that as easily with a clear span. You got to have guys who know how to run the transit and block those things and make sure that the tent's done right. Otherwise, the fabric's not going in. But with with a Navitrack or a Future Track or a Jumbo Track, your fabric's going to go in because you can adjust those legs to keep the frame square. So I think it's just, once again, it goes back to engineering certification and public safety. That's where, like I said, the Fiesta does have some engineering, but not much. I think it's 30 miles an hour, or hard.
I don't.
Or hard. Well, I mean, think about it. The Fiesta's been around since the early 1960s. It's as old as I am, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. Every company I've been to, I've been with 3 now, and they've all got it. And even some people, it's really funny is when you get around some new people in the industry, newer people in the industry, or younger guys, and they're like, "You got Fiesta?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I do." It's actually crazy. And you're like, "Yeah, but that's older," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's great." I mean, we were down in Charlotte, and they had it all. They had so much of it on racks. Dan Hooks had a ton of it on racks just sitting in the back of the warehouse, and they were like, "You want to buy it?" And I was like, "I don't. That's still a great product."
Right. Well, the great thing about Fiesta is if you have a Fiesta that you bought in 1965, the parts haven't changed. I mean, we've fixed a few of the parts and pieces, but they all still work, right? So if you buy a new part for your Fiesta, it's going to work. You don't have to drill pipes or do anything different. It's still a very viable frame system.
Yeah, you know what you're getting with it. So do you guys think that you're going to be expanding on those new hybrid style products?
I think that we're talking about a couple different design issues for the Navitrack that may address some of the changes in the frame styles that people are seeing out there, as far as new looks and things that the frame can do that old frames won't do. And that's one of the reasons we took the F3 to the F3 High Peak. Was, we had the Century frame for years. That was a David Murray design up at Tent's Fiesta. And that was great because back when we introduced the Century tent, we had a lot of customers saying to us, "Hey, we've got all these beautiful parabolic shaped, curvilinear shaped high peak tents, and then we're putting Fiestas next to them. So it looks like you're putting something squat and square next to something beautiful and majestic." So fortunately, we worked something out with David Murray, and we manufactured his Century frame for years. But that frame was on an 8.5-foot leg, and the wall system used a very small keter. I think it's 7 or 8 millimeter keter, and so it didn't integrate with anything else.
Right.
So one of the things that we're trying to do is create consistency between product lines, and I think that's where the Navi Lite and the Navi, the F3 and now the F3 High Peak all use the same walls. So it's
and when I saw the F3 High Peak, I was kind of taken back at first. I was like, I don't know about that. And then the more I thought about it, it brings in more of the old school, just even the pull tents or the High Peak in general. So people love the pitch, let's be honest, of the High Peak look or the pull tent look. I mean, we're always referred to as, oh, those circus tents. Well, no, they're not circus tents. They're sexier circus tents, really. So if we can jump in there with a frame that has that and a ketered track, I feel like that's a good push for a new company. Any company really, but a new company that's coming in that wants to have some very versatile products. I feel like that's a good way for them to go.
Well, and the other thing, the thing that appealed to me about that round extrusion was it worked with the technology WSSL principle, which was it's a pivoting frame. So when those those 4 E-bars are sitting on the ground and the cables are attached, you lift one corner and the other 3 stay on the ground. And you put that leg in there, then you go to your second corner and put the leg in there. The other 2 are still on the ground. So one guy who knows what he's doing can actually go out and put up a 20 by 20. And that's why it's a perfect product for the mom and pops and for the bounce house guys and for other guys that want to add to their inventory and have a lot of product. It's a really great product because it's got the keter channels in it. So it's very right. The problem with it, we've always had with technology and WSSL and everybody else's Canadian style frame was you had to run a wire, do other things to hang the walls. So this eliminates all that. It makes it much simpler and much easier, and it's much quicker. And it's got a higher price point, but you're going to have the benefit of all the improvements that have been made over the years. And it's not steel fittings. It's It's cast aluminum fittings, and it's a very nice product.
Right. And you're setting yourself up for the Keter stuff, which then puts you into eventually maybe a Vixen or a bigger structure, and that gives you that at the starting point of understanding what that's like versus your older style frame tents. And I mean, even then, so have you heard from people in the field? I know you were talking about setup time and how quickly it seems with a 20x20. Have you heard from people in the field so far that have been setting it up on kind of what the labor savings looks like or how they feel about it?
Well, yeah, no, I think everybody that owns it's been very happy with it, and it's like I said, it's either a 1 or 2 guy installation. I mean, think about the mom and pops. If you want to go out and do a small backyard party, you're taking a pickup truck. You're not taking a box truck anymore, and it's 2 guys in a pickup truck and 6 or 8 tables and chairs, and Bob's your uncle. Off you go. So it's a much quicker, faster, easier solution to a backyard party or any other application where you want to use a high peak tent.
Absolutely. So jumping then from there back over to the clear spans again, clear spans continue to grow faster than almost any other product in the segment, but where do you see the clear span market heading over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's certainly going to continue to grow. I mean, the number of participants has grown immensely since COVID. I mean, we talk about, we used to add 10, 15, 18 new customers a year in ClearSpan. I think that number's increased since COVID. The demand for ClearSpan is growing because of the acceptance not within our industry, but in the outer markets. So you look at whether it's, I think Dave MacArthur said it about the golf business. If it weren't for ClearSpans, there wouldn't be a golf business for the tent companies. And now you're getting into other sport. Now you're getting into other sporting events. You're getting into corporate entertaining and presentations and shareholder meetings, and there's all kinds of ways to create huge spaces in a very short period of time that are very safe. And once again, we go back to public safety, right? Which it speaks really highly. I mean, when you think about what happened in Phoenix with Roos Brothers at Russo Steel, with that car auction, with all those 120 wides blowing down years ago, you don't get that. You don't get that with clear spans unless somebody's really not putting them up properly. And then we still always have that problem that we end up with egg on our face because of that. But I think that as the industry grows and evolves, we're going to have more emphasis on education. Look what ATA, ARA, and MATRA are doing about that. I mean, they finally joined forces to figure this out because now we're all talking the same game, which is really important, I think, for our industry. And I think that sends a consistent message to ownership and employees that there is a right way and a wrong way to do this, and it's not using water barrels, and it's not taking shortcuts. It's taking the time to put the tent up properly with the right parts and pieces, and not cobbling something together at the 11th hour just because you got the job.
Right. I think that's a hard thing to do too. One, going back to your thing about everybody merging together, and this industry is big, but it's small at the same time. And for everybody to be on the same page and not be so competitive with each other and have a divide has been great. I think it'll help project the future for this industry as a whole, not just for one side or the other, but for everybody, which, I mean, is everything in the world. But also now, with the structures, the hardest thing that I've had to do is shift the minds of these events that are either the larger events, not weddings, but like more of like a music festival or anything like that, a festival in general, trying to get them from the old pole tent pricing, because let's be honest, pole tent pricing is so low, it's hard to be competitive with when you come in with a structure due to the labor, but shifting their mind that now, hey, you got a wind-rated structure that's engineered, and yes, you're going to be paying more, but you have a peace of mind at night. I have a peace of mind at night, especially for a company like Chattanooga Tent who's traveling, hundreds of miles away. I would much rather put up a structure, but trying to get those people to shift their mindset to that is hard, and I would love to hear the perspective, from them on why and things like that, but it would just be great if we could get an understanding for everybody on why those don't work anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just time and evolution, and that's what happens to a lot of industries. And I think as code enforcement changes, that's also going It's also going to change the business down the line, and we can talk about that later about the future of tenting. But code is going to be a huge part of everybody's daily existence, and the faster we all accept that, the better off we're all going to be.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Biff, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions here, just going through some things. What's one thing you wish every rental company understood about working with their manufacturer?
It's hard for us to have the mindset that you all have, which is you've got a hard date for an event, and that has to be set up on that date, no questions asked. It's harder for us sometimes, especially for somebody the size of Anchor.
Right.
When you think about it, we're operating out of
right
400,000 square feet. We've got 300 employees on the production floor. But we also make things other than tents. I mean, we make pool covers, we make fire shelters, we make awnings, we make big umbrellas, we make all. So we're not just a tent manufacturer. There's a lot of other things that go into that interrupt the tent process at Anchor.
Right.
Whereas somebody like a Fred or an Aztec, that's just all they do. But I think for me as a manufacturer, I think the hardest thing for me to convey to a customer or potential customer is the fact that we're not as nimble as you all are.
Right.
We can't turn on a dime because we're a big machine. Yeah. As much as we want to, it's not always possible. And this also goes back to the labor pool, because when I started at Anchor in 1987, there were 550 people on the production floor, of which probably 475 were women. But it was amazing when there was a problem or something that needed to be addressed. It was like an ant colony. You just shift a bunch of people over to that side. Well, then we got into lean manufacturing, and then the labor pool is changed dramatically, so that we don't have people. It's about this whole work-life balance thing. Your generation and the generation below you and the generation below them, they don't want to work all these stupid hours that myself and a lot of other people my age worked all these years of their lives. When I go on the road, it's a 60, 70 hour week, just like you guys in the field, and it's difficult to come home and readjust after all that. It's hard to get back into the swing of things at home when you've been working 12, 15-hour days on the road. So it's a
mind shift. Totally.
Yes. Please.
It made people want to stay home, but also I think giving people more perspective. Me for sure.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I think it's good perspective. I think unfortunately in our culture, the pendulum doesn't spend much time in the middle. It's usually on either side, right? So I think that sometimes the people have gotten a little extreme about the work-life balance. There has to be more balance in the balance. Yeah. So anyway,
100% work-life balance. I get that, but it's got very extreme to the point where now people are taking less pay for more PTO, or where can I not work, or when can I not? I mean, just the questions in the interviews that you hear nowadays are totally off the wall. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm of the millennial generation, but I still want to go grind it out. I want to still make sure the job's done. Now, when I have the opportunity to take a step back and take a break on some weeks that were a little bit slower, I'll do that. But at the end of the day, you still got a job to do, and we got to make money, and everybody's got to succeed. So,
but you also don't want to be the guy out there swinging the sledgehammer. That should be the guys. You're the leader out there. You're the sales guy. You're the guy who's making all this happen. You're not the one who needs to be the last person on the job site at 11 o'clock on a Friday night because everybody else went home because of work-life balance.
Talking to you, Kyle. Well, what's one Anchor product or innovation you feel is underappreciated or misunderstood?
Boy, that's a good question. I think not enough people know about our ClearSpan product lines, because I think they've always just viewed us as a tent company that sells ClearSpans. But, I really want to emphasize that we are a soup to nuts company. We do everything from a 10 by 10 to a 60-meter structure, and we have the capability to do all that. And like I said, as of this winter, we're going to be manufacturing the 334 profile here in the United States. So every profile we have now will be manufactured in the United States, and that gives us the opportunity to make custom changes or do things at the last minute to take care of somebody's specific need on a job or a project. But we have a full line of clearspan, and everything from 3 meters to 60 meters, I said, and it's all made here in the US of A.
Right. Right. Where do you see this industry then going with that in the next 5 to 10 years?
But I think clearspan will take care of a lot of problems with code officials, because it's not, I mean, like we said earlier, they go together one way. Now, there's ways to cheat all that, and if there are a lot of people out there that don't put enough, they don't put all the stakes in the base plates, and they take other shortcuts. But I think all in all, that the clearspan product lines, but regardless of the manufacturer, are going to put
Right.
code officials at ease more than a pole tent or a rickety 2-inch West Coast frame tent or a Fiesta.
What we're saying is, all you guys out there, make sure you're posting the good stuff on social media, not the bad stuff, to get ideas on why we need to take a look at this stuff. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that'll help a ton. It's just getting these people the mind shift. What's easier
Right.
versus what's safer.
Right. Well, and that's really where code, I think, down the line, and obviously the code officials are not as invasive in rural areas as they are in urban areas. But in urban areas, I think that code is going to it's going to get more and more stringent as time goes on, and it's going to create the elimination of some tent companies because they don't have product that's certified, and
Yeah.
so that's going to create supply and demand issues, and that will that'll have some positive repercussions and some negative repercussions. I think the positive ones will be that people can get a higher dollar for the product, which means they can pay their people more, which means that you're creating careers rather than a summer job or something to do between jobs, right? And that,
Yeah, and we don't want the little people to go away. I mean, we need the little people, but
we
the little people
absolutely do.
the right way, and make
Right.
sure that they're safe in doing this. And so they're investing not only in their company as a whole, but the people and everybody else in the company moving forward, so that we can create a safe tenting standard for this industry.
100%.
Right. So, Biff, who's someone that someone in the industry that you think deserves more recognition, and why?
Well, my two mentors at Anchor when I first started were J.D. Howell and Brad Gleason. And those two guys, I learned everything I know from those two guys. And they were patient with me as a young man who was new to the business, who knew nothing about it. I mean, those guys had been in the business for 20 or 30 years when I got started. And they both, Brad owned his own tent company down in Sanibel called Calusa Canvas, and JD worked for Armbruster for, I think, 27 years before he came to Anchor. But those guys were invaluable about teaching me the right way to do things, the right way to sell, the way to put up tents. I mean, I remember going to put up my first 80 wide, straight ridge pole tent, and never having done one before. And I was between those two guys, I bet you I called them each 10 times that day. But that was something as field reps that set us apart from everybody else back in the early days at Anchors. We were out there showing customers the Anchor way of putting up a tent, which was wonderful. And it created relationships and it forged relationships that are still active and very viable today, because, as I said earlier, customers become good friends, and that's why I said we're more consultative than we are salespeople. So
I feel like the friends that you make inside this industry, and we talk about it repeatedly on here, but that's what keeps a lot of us here is the friends and the friendships that you make in this industry to help you progress through this industry to make it better.
Right.
Huge. If you could give one piece of advice to someone now new to the industry today, what would it be?
Learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. And whether that's you're not going to be able to go to somebody on the other side of town and ask them to go look at their warehouse and go work on their crew for a day or two. You might be able to get away with that, but find a manufacturer that sells reputable product, that's not just selling on price. Because that's another issue we have today. Is it seems like a lot of the youngest generation is more concerned with price than product, and that's contrary to the whole code part of things, and it's a bad way to get into the business. And fortunately, most of those people around year 4 or 5, realized that okay, I need to step it up to use a more viable, reputable manufacturer in my inventory. But I think, go to the shows, listen to these podcasts, get on the websites. I mean, they have so many more resources than they did 40 years ago when I got started, when it was a phone call or somebody, finding you by chance. I remember when I got started, I went to the Rand McNally store on Michigan Avenue in Chicago because there was no internet, and I said, well, I need a map for Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and Illinois. And I circled every town that had more than 5,000 population because that had enough people to support a rental store. And I drive to those towns, pull into the gas station, ask to use their phone book. And that's how I found people. And that's the way it was when I started. It's crazy.
And now nobody can get anywhere without a GPS or phone.
Or without a cell phone, you're toast.
Meanwhile, I wish I'd lose mine half the time, but
but you just have to learn how to put it down for a couple hours a day. That's the hard part.
Well, the problem is if it stopped ringing, I could.
Right. There you go. I do know how that is.
Well, Biff, I appreciate your time today, but I've got one last question for you. After all these questions, after all these years in the game, what kind of keeps you passionate about this industry and what keeps you coming back? I mean, you've been in several different roles, a couple of different companies. You've said 39 years. Why is it?
The people. It's the people. And it's a hard-working, scrappy bunch of entrepreneurs, and I love that. And I think that it's a testament and a testimony to our American culture. And my father used to say this to my friends and I all the time: you can be anybody you want to be or do anything you want to do. You just got to want it bad enough. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think one of the things I love about this industry is I see that in so many of these people. I mean, when you look at guys like Bob Traina and Steve Frost and Kevin McBride, I mean, they didn't get handed these businesses. They may have been family businesses, but these guys took them to the next level, And I remember Bob Traina talking about Mrs. Peterson and delivering wood chairs out of the back of her station wagon when he started working there. I mean, and look what he's taken that company to. And it's incredible when you think about those things. And I look at guys like Jim Gallagher in Chicago and Charlie Feldbaum in Minneapolis. And there's so many people that have taken nothing and created a really wonderful, viable business. And they're just because they're hardworking and they have passion and they have drive. And that's so important to making this business successful.
Right. And people are grinders in this industry, and there's no doubt there. And you feel it physically and mentally, but at the end of the day, we're all here to accomplish one goal and take this to the next level. And I think that you've nailed it with the people. And that's, I've preached it over and over again, that no matter how burned out or upset you get, it always brings you back for the people and just the industry as a whole.
You bet.
Well, Biff, I appreciate you coming on today. I know that you got a lot of stuff going on and that you didn't need to take the time out to come talk with us today, but we appreciate you taking the time out. And I always know, just not even just being a sales rep of mine, but through many, many years of being in this industry, that I've always kept in touch with you. You've always kept in touch with me, and I know that I could always count on you for a phone call, whether it be personal or through sales. So appreciate everything you do in this industry, and hopefully we can keep you around for a little bit longer.
I'm planning to go till 28, so I'll be 70 in 2028, and I think that's time. But you never know. I may decide that there's something else I want to do after Anchor. I've spent most of my life here, but you never know what's in the next chapter. I might get tired of twiddling my thumbs when I'm retired. So you may find me somewhere else in the industry, but who knows?
Right. Thanks for coming on today, buddy. And this has been another episode of Under the Vinyl, a rental management media podcast.
All right. Thanks for having me. See you.
Right. Hang